African Americans were first hired into high-tech companies starting in the 1950s. Because of their degrees in science and mathematics, their military experiences in 2 world wars, their willingness to learn and experiment with new things, and because the barrier of discriminatory hiring was banned from the military and from the aerospace industry. Mary Sutton, first black woman hired by Lockheed as an engineer. She brought to the workplace a new technology called software.
One of my premises of this film is that we made a significant difference. What significant difference do you think you made at, say, at Minolta or TRW or Lockheed?
I think the biggest was at Lockheed. Before I got there, software was still kind of a mystery, and so I brought this thing called software configuration management and quality assurance, and which nobody understood because they couldn't put their fingers on it. They were used to hardware, and so I set up that discipline, if you will, which is very much ingrained in the company now, and all of it was from my initial setup of that program, which was something that we did do at TRW, and so that's probably one of my legacies at Lockheed. At Minolta, I was the first black, first female manager in all of Minolta, including the Japan offices. And so I was kind of different, people would come out from Japan and look at me, they'd say, where'd she come from? What? So anyway, I was a manager of test.
Roy L. Clay Sr., inventor, innovator, and businessman, developed a product that guaranteed safe use of all electrical products related to computers and its peripherals.
And David Packard called me and asked him to come. He had a job in the Animal. So I didn't know what that was, but it was just a hand back of doing it. I thought I would better do it. He was very unusual. He thought an interest in me because of what I knew, what I could do. And otherwise, this was very racist. Bill Hewlett was not.
At the time, we didn't even know he had a job. we knew he would go somewhere. We'd take him to these little trailers in Palo Alto, which was Hewlett Packard, and they were in little trailers on Pageville Road. We'd take him all, my mother, my 2 brothers and I, so it'd be 5 of us in the car, including him. Drop him off at this little trailer, and that was probably 8 in the morning. Come back at 7 o'clock at night, pick him up. And he never talked about what he did. A standard test that they were. So we started making this product. It's called a HIPOT, H-I-P-O-T. H-I-P-O-T stands for high potential, but also known as dielectric withstand, meaning that it can withstand a certain amount of voltage, power surge, and not catch fire. So that test became required by Underwriters Laboratories. The letter U in L circled is UL. And so we went from Hewlett-Packard, just making them specifically for Hewlett-Packard, to when it became a requirement by UL, everybody had to perform this test. So from Hewlett-Packard to IBM, Philips, Siemens, all the major companies and all the industries used Rodel equipment. So we were the world leader in this particular product. So Hewlett-Packard has our product on every one of their production lines. It's in fact we're spec'd in. They have to buy Rodel equipment.
Wilbur Jackson headed the team which enabled computers and peripherals to talk to each other across different language barriers by translating connections and automations, all before artificial intelligence.
One interesting project I worked on, we introduced kanji into all of IBM products. And this was back in the 1980s. And the markets in Oregon were just emerging for computer usage, but their language is different. And not only is it different in terms of spoken and written, but they have thousands of characters that represent their language. Well, computers weren't designed to manage thousands of characters like that. You know, they were designed for the English language in our 24 characters or 26 characters or whatever languages we supported. So I worked on a project to go through IBM in less than a year's time and take every system, every application, every piece of hardware and convert it to an operating environment where they could recognize these characters. And we had to go through every piece of code and find where those characters were manipulated, because we needed more bits to represent the characters. If you get my drift. So we had to go find where all of those bit representations were and change them. And at the time, I was managing a group that was doing a printing device, and I had to work with the Japanese and the Koreans and learn a little bit about their culture and their language so that we could make sure that we were providing the end user with what they needed and they could use. That was fun. I learned a lot about the culture, got to visit Japan, and we were successful. We got it done.
Jerry Larson was one of the only black engineers in his field, and because of his innovation, the Fairchild Channel F Council, video games were changed forever.
Who invented the first video game cartridge? Gerald Jerry Lawson started his self-taught journey as a kid in Queens, New York. He broadcasted his own radio station out of his bedroom and made money selling homemade walkie-talkies and fixing his neighbors' televisions. When he entered the workforce, his innovation and drive were so remarkable that the manufacturer of one of the major computer companies in the 70s hosted a class in Lawson's garage. He worked with different companies, developing program languages and designing HUD systems for aircrafts. Lawson started working for Fairchild Semiconductor in 1970, and by 76, Lawson had become the head of engineering and marketing for their gaming division. After he had designed one of the first arcade games called Demolition Derby, he created the Fairchild Channel F. Not only was this the first home gaming system to use a microprocessor, but it was also the first time the game could be stored externally, allowing for multiple games to be played on one system. Today, companies come out with next-generation systems about once a year. But without Lawson's invention, you would have to buy a new system for each game.
Dr. Marion Croak holds more than 200 patents. Her pioneering endeavors includes voice over internet protocol, text-to-donate technology, and network voting systems used for American Idol.
I had an unconventional childhood in that my parents gave me so much freedom to explore. And my father was a person who always encouraged me to ask why. And growing up in Manhattan as well, it expanded my horizons. It made me realize that the person that I am is not the person that everyone else is. People have very different perspectives on things, and that the way that they see the world and their needs are very different. So voice over IP is simply running a voice communication, having a dialogue with a person over the internet. And most of the people in Bell Labs and AT&T at the time did not believe in VoIP. I remember one person who was at the executive level who did believe in it. And he said, just keep going. Don't listen to them. Just keep going. Go as fast as you can. And we did. Then the feeling just left of being small, and I suddenly just grew by about 10 feet. And I realized that's where my power is. Like, my voice is a voice that will perhaps help to bring change. When I think about the contributions that I've made in terms of technology, I feel very humbled. I'm just very grateful that people have been able to use it and that it's helped humanity. I want to see things become better in my lifetime, and fortunately I have seen that, but I wanted to keep going in that direction.
Dr. Mark Dean, scientist and engineer, was instrumental in the invention of IBM's first personal computer. His work created the PC industry.
The executives wanted a new system. I was in the meeting and I said, oh, well, I happen to just have finished this design. It's close to what you want. I can make some tweaks. I think it'll do exactly what you need. They said, really? Okay. All right, you got it. And that's where the PCAT came from. That's where this ISA bus, which ended up being the industry standard for about 15 years, came from. Was a project I had as a master's student, and it turned into something that everybody ended up wanting. Not a lot of systems around at the time that could do this graphical interface that I was working on. It established a standard that others could build to, and it opened the industry to lots of possibilities. That was that, and allowing people to build the exact same thing and call it IBM PC compatible, established the industry. That's what created what we now know as the PC industry, and where companies were selling literally millions of systems. That particular interface and the way that we enabled the industry to build the exact same things and establish that compatibility, that allowed customers to buy from different companies. Denny Muller was my partner in crime, and the 3 of the 9 patents that kind of set the standard. We had fun. You know, IBM sold big machines at the time, mainframes, right? That was their deal. And this was a little computer that you could buy and put in your home. You might get lucky and sell 200,000 of these, and then we'll be done. We'll build the next thing, whatever it is. Little did we know everybody wanted one. And a lot of people wanted to build the exact same thing and make money selling their machines as well. And it took off. IBM ended up selling millions. The industry sold tens of millions. So it was a lot bigger than what we had ever expected.